is also joined in with his camera being on. Mehak is still showing me her fan. Mehak, I know you've got a pretty fan there, but I would want to see you also. If you guys are not comfortable to show your face, it's absolutely okay. Turn your camera to your workstation. That is also fine. We would love to see your work as well. Okay. So yes, Advait, I guess we are ready for today's session and we can start. One last thing that I would want to tell. One second. One second. Okay, you can just continue with the session. I'll just be back. I'm so sorry. There's a technical glitch that happened from my end. I'll just be back.
Sure, no problem. All right, guys. So the equipment required for today is literally just your paper, a pencil, and an eraser. Maybe an ugly one also. Try and get an ugly eraser. It's always good to have an ugly looking one. It means you've been working hard. Okay, so let's start off with basically just using certain simple sort of simple methods of creating different body parts. Yeah. So I'm going to start off with lips. We all draw faces all the time, right? We at least we like to draw faces. We try to draw faces as much as we can when we're making characters. But I feel one place where sometimes things go a little wrong is with the mouth or the lips, right? So let me just kind of give you an easy way to construct it. Okay, just to construct it. Some of you may know this technique. Some of you may not at all. Those of you who know this technique, this is basically a hybrid version of something that is already known. I find it easy to kind of mix and match a few different techniques just to create something that's just very user friendly. In the end, we all always gravitate to the things that are user friendly, right? Whatever it may be, whether it's a phone or a tablet or a software or just a technique. So here goes, drawing lips. Now, generally speaking, when we're in a big hurry to draw lips, what happens is, well, don't copy me on this, okay? But what happens is something like this, right? It looks like two green chilies next to each other, something like that. But what we actually, or even a slug actually, that looks like a slug. But what we actually need is that slightly three-dimensional sort of look to lips. So what I'll do is, I'll start off by imagining not a circle, but a sphere. Okay, so this is a sphere. This is not a circle. Under this, I'm going to just make a little line like that. And on one side, I'll make an oval. On the other side, I'll make another oval. Okay, this is basically how we're going to imagine the three-dimensionality of lips. Now, how is this thing going to become into lips? Basically, this is the center portion of your upper lip, and these are the two thicker parts of your lower lip. Our lower lip is kind of separated into two separate parts, right? So here I'll just make a kind of V shape, okay, just here between those two ovals, right? And I'm just going to make one line come out this way, one line come out that way. And you can already see how this is going to become into lips, right? Here, I'm just going to kind of make a line just under this circle and slope this downwards. Don't let it touch the edge, okay? This middle line, right, should not be touched by the upper lip line or the lower lip line. That's one very important thing you need to remember. Never let that actually touch. It may seem odd, but it actually doesn't really, especially when you're drawing a face around it, it doesn't really touch. What actually is on the two sides is your smile lines. We all have those little smile lines, right? So I'm just going to make one there and one here. Okay. Or draw a little bit lightly. Okay. Draw a little bit lightly because you can always make something darker later, right? but you can't make something light again without bringing in the eraser, making a big mess and stuff. So draw a little bit like this. Okay, now here I'll just bring this up to here and up to here, and we have a lip. I'll just make a few little details. First of all, I'll make a little line like this. No, actually, first of all, I'm going to get rid of whatever this thing is. Get rid of that, so there's no more confusion about that. Okay. All right. And now, just to make things just look a little bit better, right? What I'm going to do is I am going to create a little bit of shade just here and there. First of all, do you notice I'm not stabbing into the paper like this? I'm holding my pencil at an angle, at an absolute angle. Okay, and you can actually try it out away from the lips, so up here in that little space that we have there. You can just kind of make a little bit of a directional shadow there. Then just around the point where the lips meet, right? Just around there, you can start to make that area a little bit darker. Like this. Still keep it light, relatively light. Don't press too hard. Okay, don't press too hard. Okay, a little bit of shade here. There's this partition here, right, in the middle. I'm just going to emphasize that a little more by keeping a little more shade there. Also, can I know in the chat, can I just know from all of you, what do you guys like to draw? I mean, we're all artists over here. We definitely have some favorites in terms of things to draw. What is that one thing that you just randomly, if you know, suddenly you just wanted to draw something, what is that one thing that you just have to draw? Okay, Sridevi says eyes. Maria also says eyes. Human faces. Others. Nice. Nice, nice. For me, you know what it is? It's actually kind of funny. It's trees. You know why trees? Because even if you draw the worst and weirdest looking tree in the world, probably it's out there just like that. So you can never actually be wrong when you're drawing a tree, unless you draw it like gobi Manchurian. Then it's that kind of wrong. Okay, so now that we have like a general shade over a lot of the drawing, I'm going to create a little contrast, because right now you see it looks a little flat, right? It's looking just a little flat and generic, and that's because there isn't any contrast. There isn't any contrast to this. So first of all, I'll just make a little bit of texture here and there by just making a few, sideways lines this way and the other way. For the lower lip, what you have to do is make more curved lines, like this. Then I start off with that contrast that I was talking about. I'll start off with the corners of the mouth. So basically, contrast should be very minimal, okay? Never overdo it with contrast. The minute you overdo it, things start looking wrong. But okay, just a tiny bit at the corners there. Basically, you put contrast only in the deepest points, of the face, places where darker shadows can be held. And here, this middle region, a little bit dark over there. right? Underneath the lower lip, just at the base here. Not throughout, okay? Do you notice? I'm not doing it throughout, just at one point, and then it just kind of dissipates. Just kind of goes away. And one corner here, just above the lip. And as you do that, you see how it just slowly starts to, look more and more, uh, more and more sort of well rendered, well shaded, right? And if there are any parts that are looking a little too white, then just put a little bit of general shade on it. That's why that's why I say never shade unnecessarily dark. Like that. Okay, Kashish, you're doing a really nice job. That looks good. Here and there, you might need to be a little careful with the pencil pressure. Okay, some things are looking a little too dark. You can go a little bit easy on the outlining. Okay, everything doesn't need to be completely dark. You can make a few parts just light, randomly light, and it will look equally good. But your construction is extremely good. That's come out very nicely, I feel. Others, yours also is looking good. The construction is looking very nice. Good job there. Okay. So that's like a really simple and easy way to draw lips. Okay. Now let's move ahead to something a little more tricky. Okay. Now I want answers in the chat. I want answers in the chat right away. How many of you have trouble drawing hands? Anyone have trouble drawing hands? Anyone try to draw hands? I love drawing hands. Okay, so Aishwarya and Arun say yes. Okay, so the reason why hands are a little tricky, right, is because first of all, they are they have several different parts, right? This is my hand here, not the best looking hand, but it'll do for today. If you look at hands, right, they are made of several different parts, and you can see them in different angles, right? All sorts of different angles, different ways, and they look different every time. Every time they look kind of different, and even more trickier than that, they move. So you can keep them in various different angles, right? And also in different positions. So it's always best to understand how to construct these things accurately every time. Okay. Now, one thing I find kind of annoying is the amount of rules and different measuring systems and all of that when it comes to things like hands and human bodies. So right now, I'm just going to show you just two things that are going to make a real difference. Three actually, okay? Just to be fair, three things. First thing I want you to notice, okay? Look at your own hand right now. I want you to all of you look at your own hand. Your hand is the model for today, okay? Your hand is your model for today, just like my hand is my own model. So first thing I want you to notice is this space from your wrist, okay, from your wrist till your pinky finger knuckle, that length is kind of the same as your pinky finger length, right? So these two are similar in size. Maybe not exactly the same, but they're similar, definitely. Okay. Second thing I want you to remember, your ring finger, this one, is almost more or less the same size and shape as your index finger. These two are of similar size. Okay, these two. And the last thing I want you to remember, and this is a very important thing, I see most mistakes happening when it comes to hands, right? When it comes to hands, I see most mistakes happening when people think that knuckles are in a straight line. They're not. They're absolutely not. Let's look at it very carefully. One knuckle is really low, then one is higher, and then suddenly a little lower, right? Then in the second set of knuckles, right, in the secondary knuckles, it's the same pattern again: low, higher, higher, low again. And that's the same way your fingers are arranged, even when you spread them out. It goes from low, higher, higher, and then low, slightly low. Okay, so let's just remember those few things and draw a hand right now over here. So first of all, the palm area, right? Without the knuckles, without the fingers or the thumb, just the palm area kind of looks like a rectangle. A rectangle with maybe the sides that are a little bit outward, kind of, right? A little bit outward, this side and this side. And then now, let's remember the pinky finger is the same length as this, right? As this, more or less the same length. So I'll do this same length over here. This same length over here. Okay. All right. Now let's make the pattern in which the knuckles grow. You know, from low to high, right? Low to high, low to high, like that. Okay. Let's do that. So it goes from low to higher, 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 and then low again. It kind of in this kind of a pattern, right? And it's the same for the second knuckle. So higher, higher, and then low again. And that's the same. I'll draw it a little darker so you can see. Okay. And it's the same thing again for the heights of the fingertips as well. Something like that. And now on the side here, I'll just make a little triangle, like this, small little triangle. This is for the beginning of the thumb, the base of the thumb. Okay. Now I think we should start drawing in the knuckles, not the fingers. We'll start drawing in the knuckles. Now the knuckles, right now, let's just think of them as small little pebble type things. Okay, the small little pebble type things. One here, one here, one there. Actually, let's not even think of the third one. Let's just think of the primary and the secondary knuckles. One here. Leave a space. Okay, leave some space before drawing the next one. Because one common misconception is that we think knuckles are stuck together right next to each other. But look at them. Look at your own knuckles. You can place an entire finger in between. There's lots of space in between each knuckle. Okay, so make sure you make that very, very clear. Okay, now secondary knuckle spaces. Of course, secondary knuckles are smaller, right? Like that. Okay. And like I said, let's not worry about the third tertiary knuckles and all that stuff. That's not necessary. Let's just think about fingers, okay? Instead of thinking of the entire finger, why not just think of them as cylindrical segments? Because that's what they are, right? It's a segment in between two pebble shapes like this. It's a segment and a pebble shape, and then another segment, and then a pebble shape. It's the same everywhere. So let's just think of it that way and fill it out in that way. So here, watch closely. So I have my circular join, and I just join it like a normal segment, like just a cylindrical segment till there. Next one, the normal segment. Only I'm going to go a little bit higher because there is quite a difference in size the between the ring finger and the pinky finger. So let that go a little bit higher. Here too, we have just a segment. It's going to look a little mechanical at first, but that's okay. Segment, segment. Okay. Kashish, nicely done. If anybody else would like me to look at their work, please point your camera to your page. Now, here's another thing. Maria, I'm looking at yours, but you need to hold it a little higher. I'm not able to see it fully. Ah, okay. Got it. Got it. Yes. Good. 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 Yes, that's good. Keep it up. Yeah. Let's keep going. Now, now this line, right, that started here. It goes up like this and comes down. But if we go a little more down, just a little more down, you know what will come over here? The knuckle for the thumb. And if we bring this down a little bit here, at this point is the edge of the thumb. So again, we just treat it like a segment. The thumb final segment is a kind of big fat one. Okay. All right. So now we kind of technically have the hand ready, kind of, right? So let's just start putting it together. Just start putting it together with the real skin and padding and all of that, because we have so much of that on our hands, right? We have so much padding over here, and we have like a little bit of webbed finger skin over here, right? And between the thumb and fingers, we have a lot of excess stretchable skin over there. So let's just draw in all of that. From here, bringing my hand in, you can draw a little bit, just slightly darker now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the finger a little more filled out, just a little more filled out. But always remember the tips of fingers are slim. The tips of fingers are always slim. Okay, then we bring this here, inwards over here, and then we have this little webbed space. Okay, this webbed space right there in between the two fingers. You can actually see this clearly if you just stretch your fingers out, right? You stretch them out, you'll see these little mini webs that we have. Okay, filling this one out. And basically to make sure that the webs don't go further ahead, right? Just bring the end of the finger all the way to the knuckle. All the way to the knuckle, and then in front of that, a little ahead over here, you do the webbing. Middle finger, as you know, is the largest one and is also like kind of the tallest of all the fingers. So you bring it down here, webbing, and then back up again. You all know that I'm doing the back of the hand, right? We're not doing the front of the hand. We're not doing the interior. We're doing the back part where the knuckles and all that. And like that. Okay, now this comes downwards here. Now I want you to very, very particularly look at your own hand personally. More than looking at my drawing, I want you to look at your hand near the thumb section. Okay, very seriously. Look at it and notice the lines. Notice how does the skin naturally rest. For me personally, one goes downwards like this. One goes kind of like a small little flap like that. And I have one more smaller one that kind of goes a little sideways and then becomes part of the thumb. That's how mine is. Now this line I will just bring around like this, wrapping itself around the knuckle of the thumb. And comes here, wrapping around the knuckle of the thumb just slightly. And then we have the main thumb area. Okay. Now, last thing that we need to do is let's remove all of these extra lines. Any of you who are done with the main outer line, remove all of these extra, construction lines and all of that, so that we can make the knuckles and the nails. The actual knuckles, not the circles and ovals that we did. The actual knuckles. Okay. Now, one thing I want you to know when you're drawing a human being, when you're drawing knuckles, it's not actually. Now I know I said pebbles and all of that stuff for knuckles, okay, but it's not, right? It's actually just a tendon. It's like a rope type of thing, and it's quite long also. And what happens is it goes from very thin to very broad to broad like this, and then becomes thin again. That's what a tendon looks like, actually. Okay, it goes from thin to broad and then thin again, and it runs the length of your whole hand. Okay, so that's how we should be drawing knuckles, not like bumps, but like little ropey things, So I'm just going to do that, but not fully, just in just slight indication of it being there. If I draw the whole thing, it'll feel like the knuckle is outside the skin, which would be wrong and creepy. So what we do instead is just make a slight indication that it's beginning here, slight indications beginning here, and then otherwise fade it out there. And that's how we show a knuckle. Same thing here. Like that. Lightly, okay, guys? Don't do this dark. It's got to be light. It's under the skin, right? It's underneath. So the impression should just be that slight. Kashi, nice job so far. I would only say one thing. This part, I hope you're looking at the screen, at my screen here. This part for you has become a little narrow. Okay, what you've done is you've brought it in a little bit like this. So I want you to bring it outwards a little bit. Okay, redraw this and make it a little thicker. That's the only thing. Okay. Now I'm just making a few small little markings, very minimal for the secondary knuckles. Okay, it's just a very, very minimal length. Okay, it's nothing too noticeable, nothing too big or loud or bright. It's very, very slight lines. Now the nails you have to be a little careful with. One points, the pinky finger points a little bit to one side. So I'm going to draw it a little bit to one side. Now again, I'm going by a very general standpoint. If you want to look at your own hand and draw it that. The ring finger is mostly in the middle, right in the middle. It basically just shows, the nail just shows which way our fingers are leaning, That's all. That's all it actually does. It shows us which way our fingers are leaning. Middle finger, right in the middle. Index finger also, right in the middle. Thumb, of course, this is, I think, common with most of us, at least all of us or most of us. It's kind of totally leaning on one side. But the amount it's leaning will, depend on each one of you separately. I'm going to make a slight correction here. Just a slight correction here. I drew it a little too bulky. So I'm just going to smoothen that out a little bit. Yeah, that's better. And now finally, what we can do is just put a little bit of shading. And the shading we'll put only in the submerged, the not submerged, but the points which are lower. So the tops of the knuckles obviously won't have won't have shade, right? But in between the fingers, definitely, right? So remember, shading is not about coloring dark. Okay, it's not about doing it darkly. It's about just creating a slight variation in the amount of light in that area. If you one thing I can tell you honestly is that I'm barely putting any pencil pressure, barely. Kashish is looking much better, definitely. What about the rest of you? And how is this? How is this draw today? How are you guys liking it? If you guys are liking it, send me some emojis or some thumbs ups or whatever. I'd like to know, if you guys are having a good time or not. Yeah. All right. Adarsh, I almost saw it. Can you show me one more time? Yes, nice. The fingers are good. I think only this part. I hope you're looking at my screen right now. This part can come inwards a little bit. You've made it a little too stocky. This base of the thumb, you can bring it in just slightly. Okay, Maria, I'm looking at yours now. Please hold it right there. Yours looking good. Only thing I feel is that the fingers, next time when you draw it, the fingers can be a little longer. Okay, a little bit longer. but really not by much, just slightly. Otherwise, the form and shape has actually really come out correctly. All right. Now remember, I'm just putting a little bit of shade in between the knuckle area, okay? Just in between all that. And do it lightly. And then if you require, to do a little contrasting, then you can start to, maybe where the webbing is, right over here, there you can put in a little more of a deeper shade. See? You see how that starts to make a difference? Like this. And I'll just put in a little more detail. Now, of course, in a workshop like this, I can show you how to do construction, some shading, and a little bit of shading, not too much also, But in a masterclass where we both have like a lot of time, we can actually draw hands like this. This is a hand collage. This is something which I do quite often to really help in understanding hands in different angles, sizes, positions, whatnot. I'll show you another one as well. And all this happens just by understanding how the structure and position of hands change, in different angles. This is another one that I've done, which I can teach you to do as well. This one truly, cements the idea of how to draw hands perfectly.